I don't really care what you do. I care about why you do it.
And then finally being comfortable with that. Oh, wait, I just neglected every other piece of my game to get this right.
Is my brain, protecting, predicting, or problem solving? Are thoughts and emotions truly controllable?
That ends up with a lot of people as like their new thing that they do forever. Like they just start turning that club face in further and further and further to not slice.
This might be a bit of some hard truths on my field as a whole. And if it's a critique, it's a critique. But yeah, it's something that I've noticed a lot. So I don't think I ever went into like my like philosophical career of like where I started to where I'm at now. So I started off like all of my training was like your traditional sports psychology training. So I did all of the confidence stuff, attention control, energy management, imagery, and there's one like goal setting stuff like that, like the like big five of like psychological skills training. And then I found through a buddy of mine, shout out Billy, exposed me to psychological flexibility training, which comes out of a different armor. It's like a progression of like what most people hear cognitive behavioral therapy. It's the new wave of cognitive behavioral therapy. And so a lot of the work that I had to do professionally as I started kind of making this transition was going in and like asking the question of like, why am I doing the things that I'm doing as a practitioner? Right. So like I tell you to write a power statement, right? Of like, I am insert whatever we want to feel. Like,
Okay.
what's the overall function of that? Like, what's the outcome that we're looking for? And a lot of the times I found that the function of what I was doing was to suppress a thought or an emotion. The question comes into play of like, do I actually have, is that something that's controllable? Right? Are thoughts and emotions truly controllable? And is it a reliable thing to fall back on saying, don't think this, don't feel this, try and think this instead? And through both personal experience, running, playing golf, all of that stuff, and also the research on it's relatively weak, you don't have control over it. It's just not there. And so a lot of people will go and buy these self-help books from either a golf perspective or life perspective, and they'll take these quote unquote interventions, that's essentially what they are, and they'll say, okay, well, great, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to do breathing techniques. That's a big one that I hear all the time. And, I always ask the question, okay, why are you doing the breathing techniques? And they're like, because I want to be less stressed. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So we do the breathing techniques. What happens immediately after you stop breathing? They're like, oh, I'm just stressed all over again. And, I always ask, is it more, the less, or same? And the general consensus that I get from that answer is you're either more stressed or the same amount of stressed.
Mhm.
And so when you look to do things to, the language I use is to not feel, which is generally what we're talking about. It's not a functional behavior because it doesn't get us where we want to be.
It's like drinking.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, right. So when we're having all these conversations about like how do we help people get better at playing golf, right? So
Uh,
like I'm going to do this pre-shot routine because I'm scared of hitting the tee ball on one.
yeah.
I don't want to be afraid.
Mhm.
Or I'm going to do this breathing technique because I'm stressed and I don't want to be stressed. Or I'm going to take a little bit more time reading this putt because I'm having doubts on my line and I can't commit to my line because there's doubt. When we look into like, okay, how do we psychologically go and play a round of golf? Thinking and feeling can't be a part of that equation because there's not a whole lot of control there. I joke with the guys that I work with all the time. I just say, I really don't care what you do. I don't. I care about why you do it.
Yeah.
If we're just, and we've talked a lot about attention, right? And
Mhm.
I bring attention into it all the time because it's essentially performance. The question is like, okay, well, where does your attention go? Like, what's your attention fixated on? And then if we're saying that, okay, there's this thing that's here that makes me uncomfortable, let it be stress, let it be doubt, let it be worry, let it be fear, and I can't perform until this goes away. Well, now our attention is just on this thing that we're feeling, not on
Yeah.
golf. And so the follow up to that is like, okay, so if we're just going to let this be here, then what do we focus in on? So one is the behavior, but two is the functionality piece is like that question of why, right? What is it about golf that's important? Is it, we talked about creativity, right? So it's like,
Exercise strategy,
yeah, right. And so
whatever.
so let's run with creativity because I think that that's one that a lot of golfers feel when they're on the, that's something that's important to a lot of golfers when they start playing more and more is the creativity aspect to it. So, okay, I'm going to go through and do my pre-shot routine so that I can go and be creative, so that I give myself the opportunity to be the most creative that I possibly can be. And from a functionality standpoint, that's something that we can get at every time. With the thought and emotion piece of like, can we manipulate, change, dress up a thought or an emotion? Like the percentage of that being successful, I'll give it on the higher end is 10%. But then when we pursue the value, pursue the creativity, that's something we can do 100% of the time. When there's all of these golf self-help books, it's just pushing you towards that 10%, right? And like I would still go through and read any of those self-help books or read any of those golf psychology books, but look at it from a standpoint of function. Is this just saying that you should do these things because other people do them and they're quote unquote correct? Or are you actually getting to where you want to go on a consistent basis?
It's gonna be very difficult for somebody who is in the 90s or hundreds to take those bits of advice and actually apply it to the point of where it's going to quote unquote work in the environments that they play in.
Mm,
If you're say a 70s or pro scratch, anything like that, you're not playing in the same type of relaxed, no one cares environment. Very rarely is a 90s 100 shooter playing with a scratch group, right? Or
mhm.
or a group that takes it seriously. So if you were actually trying to get better and all your friends are in the 90s and hundreds and you care and you're trying to get better, the things you may learn in that book about pre-shot routines and your practice, your competency, where your attention's at, it's going to be tested to the max in reality, right? Especially with drinking, and I have a question about that. Is like when you're talking about not feeling, or you're doing all these things to not confront your thoughts, confront your feelings as you're playing. Do you think the drinking aspects of, and I'm not saying everybody does this, but drinking in terms of what people call it, like swing juice, like I feel,
Yeah.
my swing feels looser, I feel better. It's not really the swing, is it? It's numbing thoughts.
You see that a lot. Like when you're drinking, it suppresses, right? The thoughts become quieter. That voice in your head becomes a little bit quieter, a little bit more supportive, a little bit more of, risk taking, right? It'll encourage some of that risk taking a little
Yeah.
bit.
Now, doesn't
It
the thoughts kind of get suppressed, but the emotions go up?
can be, yeah.
Right? Don't, I mean, I know when I drink, I might feel a little angrier when I hit a bad
Sure.
shot than if I was completely sober.
Become a little
Um,
bit more volatile.
yeah, but
Yeah.
I'll definitely take more risks. So that's, suppresses my inhibition, less decision making percentage capability. But
Yeah.
if I hit that, if I go for it and hit a bad shot, I'm more angry for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so now here's what you're setting up, right? So like if this is like thoughts and this is emotions, right? So we start having some drinks, the thoughts quiet,
Yeah.
right? We could start taking more risk, right? Which there's pros and cons to that. But now the swing that we have on the emotion side drastically increases, drastically, like we just go through this wide range of experiencing of the emotions. And so to me, the question is like, yeah, sure, you want to have some drinks on the golf course, go have fun. Great. Yeah, all
No,
for it. Uh,
never against it.
yeah, never against it. Drinking can be something, and this is not me condoning just constant drinking, but like there's a world where drinking is a form of connection. But if we're looking at just raw performance of like I'm trying to improve my golf game, chances are drinking on the golf course is nothing more than suppression and avoidance
Yeah,
of
I
the
agree.
internal world.
No, I think of it from a completely different perspective because I actually never even thought of it in the way that you're talking about right now.
Hmm.
Even though I completely understand, the way I think about it has always been a nutrition piece.
Yeah.
Like your energy level by whole 10, 11, 12. If you've been eating horrendously, maybe even that whole day, you're not getting sufficient snacking on a golf course. I almost wanted to do an independent study on calling different golf courses and researching what was actually on menus at most places that were like turn and go food. What do they
Hmm.
have for snacks and how they really set up golfers for failure with what's available. No fruit, sugar, energy drinks, water, obviously, your best option, and it's not giving you any nutrition. So when you add drinking to the mix, and again, I'm not against it because I have a great time with my family. We have our drinks. Everybody's having a great time. It's very social. But when you look at it from a combined standpoint, it's never one or the other. I'm not trying to be social, and I'm also maybe not trying to suppress my thoughts. It's just happening all at once. And
Yeah.
from my perspective, it's always a nutrition piece. Like, got to mix in a water, have a chicken salad, get some protein. Whatever you can do in terms of like mix nuts, make trail mix, that whatever can keep the energy up. I always used to pack my lunches when I went to go play. That's how serious it got for me. But you're putting yourself at a disadvantage every time adding alcohol to the mix in one of those two ways, either from the mental side or the physical nutrition side.
And that's where you have to ask like why am I out there? Why am I out going out and playing that round? Because if you're trying to play at a really high level, like all of that, the nutrition side of the house is so important. You're not walking a small amount if you're walking. It was very hard for me when I've made this transition from, the traditional sports psychology into more of the psychological flexibility side of the house to not look at everything from a function standpoint.
So let me talk about a solution standpoint to this, because when you talked about in the last episode, we talked about pre-round, you determined that this is going to be just a practice round. Like you're setting an intention for the round. It's not always, doesn't always have to be competitive,
Hmm.
right? When you go out and make every round competitive, regardless of what's happening on the course, you're also setting yourself up for failure because you're battling something as all
Yeah.
thing are going on. So
Yeah.
pre-round, you can determine that, okay, this is just gonna, I'm not here to be competitive. This is gonna be a practice round. That might be your social day, right? I'm gonna take what the course gives me. I'm gonna
Hmm.
give my best swing, blah blah blah. I feel like now saying what we're saying here with alcohol and like mindful intention, that would also be a pre-round decision. There's like you'd
Yeah.
have to determine, say, you know what, this isn't really a drinking round today. I know some people are gonna be drinking, but I feel like I want to test myself today and
Hmm.
determine you're not going to drink. It has to be,
Sure.
yeah, and then pre-round, you can also say this is a practice round, but I'm also going to be social today and I'm not going to worry about what happens. You have to physically disconnect yourself from the score
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
make that determination. That's the solution though. You can't show up and then be mid-round and say, I drank, so and this game's gone to shit and I can't do anything about it. Like now you're all disappointed in the game. The rest of the game during that round will be basically forfeited. You don't get anything out of it. When we're talking about meaningful reps,
Yeah.
you're getting zero.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. It's the intentionality. It within like trying to get better that like if I keep doing the same thing, it should work at some point if I just do it more. And it couldn't be further from the truth.
That's
Where it's like
interesting.
and this kind of ties back into this is hard. It's like yeah, like you care about it. It's not gonna be easy. And so the question is like can you do the difficult meaningful thing, or are you just looking for the expedient band-aid that's gonna make you feel better?
Hmm.
And if this game is important to you, like go do the difficult meaningful thing and watch what happens.
Yeah.
And you just do it while you're uncomfortable.
Yeah. Like I said, I read a couple pages of this book, and the first thing I saw was guy was talking about a doctor who he was playing with, and he said, seeing him stand tensely over 4 foot putts, I reflected that if he held his scalpel with as much apprehension and self doubt as his putter, I'd never want to be on his operating table.
Hmm.
And I saw that, and I'm thinking, a lot of people who play golf, if we're talking about the upper echelon of like country club type people, they're all usually pretty damn good in their fields. With that expendable income to be a member at golf courses and to suck that bad or suck not so good at a sport that you love but continuously brings you joy, it's a mental hurdle in itself to just continue playing. So if you're on this
Hmm.
journey to get better, you really have to come to terms with that non-linear progression. You
Hmm.
have to understand that it's not linear. And second, that what is that end game? Is there an end game? Like, because most people would consider like retiring is like the end game of a career, right? You want to get to this retirement piece, you got plenty of money, you're good to go. Where's that? And there's no end game in golf. You're always playing. You're playing forever. And if it's not, we talked about this, if it's not one step, it's another. If it's not this score, it's another. What am I trying to get to? What's that first step goal? And not try to go from 90, scoring 95 to 75.
Hmm.
You go from 95 to 90 from a personal, I know attached to the score point, but
You're already learning. I love it.
smaller goals instead of like what's getting better mean, to your point, like when I dig in on people on what their goals actually are,
Yeah.
it's very much like you get a little pushback because they've never asked themselves to go a little
Yeah.
bit deeper into the why.
Well, and I think even within that pursuit of why, and yeah, sure, have some of those smaller goals that the smaller attainable goals that would be beneficial. But like you have to understand the value structure that you live out of first and foremost, right? Like, is creativity something that's important to you,
There you
or
go.
is discipline something that's important to you, right? Like, and it's funny, one of the things that you mentioned within reading those first couple of pages was like the doubt and apprehension piece of like the question that I would have asked that doctor is like, hey, do you ever feel doubt and apprehension when you're in the operating room?
Mm.
And chances are probably at some
Yeah,
point,
yeah, yeah.
right? And so automatically, right? And this is again just like something that I notice about my field. What the author there is setting up is saying that the reason why he's not golfing is, not golfing as well as he does in surgery is because of doubt and apprehension.
Mm.
Now imagine the way that I would approach that doctor if we were working one on one is like, hey, what do you love about surgery? Like, what is it that made you want to go be a surgeon?
Yeah.
And then you take those qualities that make that person a great surgeon, and you translate that into your golf game. Maybe it's like a helping aspect. Maybe it's again that creativity of finding new ways to, new safer ways to go about a surgery. Maybe it's the humility of, going in and, yeah, having somebody's life in your hands. Whatever those qualities are, you gain some of that information to say, okay, what can I orient these smaller goals to? So it's not just about, hey, let me check this box. Hey, let me break 100 for the first time. Let me break 90. Let me break 95. Whatever that number is. And you can constantly have that thing where now when you go out and play around, you know what are the qualities in life that are most important to me. And now whether it's a practice round, a competitive round, a fun round with buddies, well, now it can be meaningful for you because you know the things that you care about.
Hmm. So how, I mean, I guess my only, I mean, we've talked about it so much. My only question really is how do you separate yourself mentally from what's going on in your environment to what you to doing that?
Yeah.
Because
So,
on the ground floor, it's like
mhm.
in the parking lot,
Yeah.
tough to center yourself to what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
The best thing that I think that I've ever done from a mental performance standpoint was I actually named the voice in my head. You have a voice in your head?
Oh yeah,
Is that voice you speaking to yourself?
yeah, that fucker won't shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't
Right.
care.
So,
It's always I got ADD, man. It's
yeah. So,
always cranking.
so think about this, right? Who's the expert on you?
The Lord God,
Okay,
that's
cool.
expert on me.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
this conversation, me.
Yeah, right. So you're the expert on you,
Mhm.
and you're telling yourself all of the ways that you're not good enough, why you're never going to achieve the things that you want to, why you're going to keep making the same mistakes that you've always made,
Yeah,
and it kind of sets up this like dictatorial relationship.
I've read some books where like or heard some interviews like Tom Brady, David Goggins, those types of top tier guys who just call it
Mhm.
their inner bitch. Right?
Yes, but now think about it this way too, right? Like again, it's now we're thinking about the relationship that we have with our psychology.
Yeah.
Right. So now there's a part of you that we're going to now flip the script and we're going to demean, put down, and belittle when all of the things that we've been talking about of like thinking and feeling is associated with caring. I take the perspective of not so much like your inner bitch where now we have to like put it in its place and like, get it to just be quiet. Like it's just that friend that's a little bit of like a hypochondriac that cares, like that starts thinking about a lot of things and thinks about like all of the problems that could potentially come up, right? Like you're not going to look at that friend if you're saying like think about like when you broke off on your own for the first time, right? And you started working for yourself for the first time. And if a friend came up to you and said, "Justin, like I really care about you, man. Like have you thought about this? Have you thought about, what happens if you have a slow month? Have you thought about all these things that could possibly go wrong?" You wouldn't look at that person and go, screw you, get away from me, don't talk to me ever again. Right? You would say, hey, I hear you. I've done all of that, or I haven't done all of that, but this is something that's important to me. I'm going to go do it anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
it's a little different when you don't have a choice. I really
Yeah,
feel like
yeah,
at the
exactly.
time I really felt like I didn't have a choice. I just got let go from a job and it was going really well. I have millennial guilt. So like every time that I need to have a serious conversation with somebody in the workplace, it doesn't even matter if it's like above, below, doesn't matter. I have the understanding that I'm getting fired. I feel like I'm just getting let go. I have like PTSD from the
Yeah.
corporate world
Yep.
where I think anytime I'm being brought into an office or like being told something, it's never positive. Very rarely, like less than 5% of the time was I getting praised for anything. And I'm a damn good worker.
Mhm.
Exhibit my own company.
Yeah.
Like I had enough skill and just like mental fortitude to just build this thing on a whim
Hmm.
and be self-employed, still learning as I go, but I work triple the amount that I feel like a normal person works. Leaving that job again, I thought everything was going completely fine, and I'm like, I don't have an option anymore. I'm not. Apparently, I'm unhireable. I just like can't do enough. I can't care about what I want to care about and work for somebody else. And they always think that I'm not giving enough time. And I'm like, well,
Hmm.
how are we supposed to be humans, man? How am I supposed to like? How am I supposed to care about anything other than being here from 9 to 5 or whatever the hell it is?
Right.
So like, what I was gonna say is caring for David Goggins, Tom Brady, would show up as laziness, procrastination, saying like you're too tired, you're doing too much, you need to slow down. You need you,
Yeah, because
yes,
they care. They're, again, so
they care
think
about
about
high performance.
well, and they might also care about other things as well, right?
Sure.
Like you know
Family.
I think a lot of times like there's this notion of like the contexts in our lives like stay separate. I always think about you want to have the best relationship with the voice in your head that you possibly can. And when you think about developing and building a relationship, you have to be honest,
Yeah.
right? Like the voice in your head is going to say some really silly stuff. And you got to be able to say that that's silly. I'm gonna leave that one alone. You keep talking, but I'm not gonna pay attention to that. And then likewise, there's gonna be some things that are really useful, right? So like, maybe you're out there and you're drinking a whole bunch on the course, or you're not keeping score because you're worried about seeing the score at the end of the round, and you're having a little bit of trouble facing having some of that accountability. That voice in your head might say, "Yeah, dude, you have to keep score."
Mm.
And there might be some utility within that, right? But ultimately, you as the performer get the choice on whether or not you put your attention into it.
For you in that running thing, it's like your body had the same thing. It was basically protecting you from injury is really what it is, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to get injured. You care about
Yeah.
being in good shape.
Yep.
Doesn't this not come from a basic evolutionary standpoint of fight or flight? Yeah,
Thousand
yeah,
percent.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Right.
just evolution.
So I like to think that our brain does a few things really, really well. It protects, it predicts, and it problem solves. Those are the things that the brain is just it's masterful at. And like,
That's great though. That's great. That's the answer I'm freaking looking for. It's like just sandwiching it to three things that
yep,
you can ask yourself. If I'm having thoughts, I can revert back to which one is this doing right now?
yep.
Perfect.
And
Keep going.
so problem solving is the one that I think is like what makes humans human. I like problem solving going this way, going out into the world.
Mhm.
A lot of times, what we do is we'll take the problem solving that works going this way and we flip it inwards and say, okay, now I have to solve the problems within me. It doesn't work like that, right? And
Yeah.
so, as we start looking into some of the more like specific interventions, like, yes, it's good to know, is my brain, protecting, predicting, or problem solving? But the follow up to that is like, is that protection, prediction, or problem solving, is it useful? Right. So like for you, like you mentioned that you ground yourself in your posture, right, when you're playing.
Yes.
And so let's say you get through a round, or you're working your way through a round, and you're going through your routine, and you've got that pull hook.
Mhm.
And your brain says, "Hey, I've been pull hooking everything. Let me open the club face wide open so then I can, so that I'm not going to miss left." Would that be useful
No,
to
that's
just throw?
that's Band-Aid. I
Right?
know that.
Yeah, right.
What,
So
but that ends up with a lot of people as like their new thing that they do forever. Like they just start turning that club face in further and further and further to not slice. It happens all
and,
the time.
and so think about that psychologically, right?
Hmm.
The voice in your head. Well, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. Remember that one time we did it and it worked?
Yeah.
And yes, benevolent dictator, it works. Let me close that, let me close
Yeah.
that club face some more, right? And so automatically, like when you start classifying, like what's my relationship like with the voice in my head? That voice in your head's uncomfortable, and it's saying, "Well, I want to be more comfortable, so close the club face more,"
Gotcha.
right? As opposed to maybe it's discipline is the thing that keeps you on the thing, on doing the proper setup every time, right? Hey, I'm just going to be disciplined this round, and if I've got the pull hooks today, okay, that's
Yeah.
going to be some work that I have to do. But let me just be disciplined in following my process
Mhm.
so I can set myself up for success.
I've done enough work to know why it's happening. Even if it's happening all around, I know how to adjust it to where it's
Hmm.
not a open the face type thing.
Yep.
I know what it is. But for the average guy, they don't know how to correct that. So we've had plenty of episodes already talking about just going in with the swing you have, going in with the game you have,
Yep.
accepting it, but you have to take that knowledge of what happened and make a note of it. You have to know what to practice. The practice piece comes into play here so you can understand what all right, I slice. I couldn't get off the tee today to save my life. At that point, you wouldn't go and practice putting.
Right.
Like we gotta get this down. We gotta figure
Hmm.
this out. And it doesn't mean compensation with the club face for the most part. It's usually you got to record your swing and figure out what's going on,
Hmm.
right? That's being honest with yourself. We literally just talked about it.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
100%.
The question is, what are you being guided by? Right,
Right.
from a psychological perspective, are you being guided? So like you mentioned, like, okay, I had a terrible driving round that, 3 days later I get some time to go and practice, but I was
Mhm.
putting the ball really well. So
Yeah.
do I go do the thing that makes me uncomfortable, or do I go do the thing that makes me feel pretty good?
So this is actually a great opportunity to say, like, even when so I've always attributed my best rounds to a good driving day. It's
Hmm.
always very rare for me. I spray it all over the place. But then I have a day that I hit the middle of the fairway, like say 11 out of 14 times would be ideal, amazing.
Hmm.
And same score. So then putting will break down and shots from the fairway, maybe wedges break down. And I'll say breakdown is like not being close to the pin or like being short, being right, doesn't matter. I thought the answer was a good driving day. It's not,
Hmm.
right? It's not. So what I'm getting at there is like the practicing driving. It's such a multifaceted game that just practicing the driving and then finally being comfortable with that. Oh wait, I just neglected every other piece of my game to get this right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then you go and then you can take that even a step further of saying like, oh, well, so you classify a good driving day as like a good day at golf.
yeah,
What does that even mean, a good day at golf? Right? Well, I had a good day.
yeah,
I drove the ball well, and it's like, well, okay,
yeah,
what about every other aspect of the
yeah.
game?
I couldn't tell you who I like. Say I had like maybe two really good driving days this year. I couldn't even tell you who I played with.
Right. Right.
Right. That's upsetting.
And I think that that's where like when we start to like look at the conceptualization of how you approach performance improvement is, especially from that psychological lens, is like, what are the parameters that you're setting yourself up to be judged on? Because your brain is going to judge.
Mm,
And so if we say, okay, the only way for me, talk about a very straight and narrow line, the only way for me to deem a good day on the golf course is by driving the ball well. It's like, whoa,
yeah.
right? And it's irrespective of your score. And I think that that's the big thing is so many people cling to the score. They hold on to it so tight. And all that does is it just makes that dictator bigger and more powerful. That dictator starts to, go from, having like a Kim Jong-un sphere of influence to like like a Mao sphere of influence,
Yeah,
whatever
well,
it may
I
be.
think it really keeps people stuck, myself included. As a coach, I see it a lot in the players who hold themselves tight to the score, which makes me look internally, and I see it in myself quite a bit now, more than ever, that I am so outcome focused
Hmm.
my score just stays right where it's at. Now, I can't, I'm fortunate and blessed enough to be able to have a comfortable piece of my game that I know I'm going to shoot upper 70s, mid 70s, low 80s. But
Yeah.
I can't imagine what that does to somebody who's starting 100 to 120 and trying to get better when you're so outcome focused that the second you drop two quads or a couple triples, that round's done wherever that is because you're so it's like, oh well, here we go again, no confidence, everything breaks down. And for me,
Yeah.
nothing really breaks down when I play, but I start to see a string of bogeys because I'll make a mistake and I'm thinking too much
And then that dictator becomes just a little bit stricter.
because he's right.
Becomes
Or
exactly right.
yeah.
And so now all of a sudden that you start listening to that voice in your head more and more, and it's like,
Mhm.
well, yeah, there's an element of truth to that. I better listen to it.
Yeah.
Again, it goes back to, is it useful? Is it
Mhm.
something that you can benefit from? And if there's no utility there, just leave it alone.
Mhm.
Right? Like, it's like being out on the golf course and like you hear a dog barking.
Yeah, that
You're like,
doesn't bother me at all. I don't care if
well,
anybody's even talking.
so imagine
I'm
if
sure
you
it
could
does though.
have that type of focus, right? From a standpoint of like, hey, I'm having some thoughts that are really aren't useful. Let me just dial into what I need to do, things that are going to be of utility to me.
Yeah.
That part's a trainable skill,
Mhm.
right? We're quick to do it with a dog barking because there's no teeth to it.
When you don't have
Right.
control. There's no
Right.
control. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's the exact same thing with the thoughts that we have in our mind.
Mhm.
We love to say that we have control over it, but history and experience tells us quite the opposite. Because if we did have control over our thoughts and emotions, the way that people talk about having control over our thoughts and emotions, this wouldn't be an issue. This
Mhm.
problem would have been solved 30, 40 years ago.
1,000, 30,
Yeah,
40.
yeah, right. Like this all would have been taken care of.
So let's finish with this. How do you once you've lost? So say I'm on. And it usually happens actually on the front now with me. So say I'm three over after four, and I had no, we won't even talk about expectations, but I'm well on my way to being the 6, 7 over that I'll start on the front nine, and then I'll stay even on the back nine because I just don't care. I figured it out, whatever. I've lost to the voice in my head that is being a dictator over my imposter syndrome. How do we give a good like check back in? How do you check back in?
Well, recognize it first. You got to name
Yeah,
it, right? Like,
got to naming it. Okay,
yep. And not
I can't wait to name
necessarily,
this bastard.
but yeah, and what I would challenge people to is like, don't pick a name of somebody you hate,
Oh yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, because now you're just setting up this like very hateful relationship, right? And when I say like, you have to name it, like, you have to know when you're under the dictatorial control, right? So for me, what that would sound like is like, ooh, Steve's running the show here. What are the things that I like? What are the things that I set out to care about today? We'll say creativity,
Mhm.
right? Okay. Great. Well, I care about being creative. What's something I can do right now to be creative?
Yeah. To check back into that exact
Mhm.
moment. Yep, yep.
Yep. And it's the same thing. Like and again, what can I do to be creative while Steve is talking to me? Just let it happen.
Yeah, gotcha.
But the thing that you have to name is that your attention is over here. And so once you recognize your attention's way off this way, you have to just welcome yourself back in. Like, okay, cool. Like, welcome back to being creative. Right? Like
Gotcha.
it's a lot of silly stuff, but the silly stuff works. Like,
Yeah,
right?
well,
Like,
especially
like
in golf when you go hole to hole, it's
yeah, right. And so that's something that you can do all the time, right? Like that's something you could say, and we're back. And like the fact that you laughed at me going, and we're back,
yeah,
that reinforces the skill, right?
sure.
That reinforces the fact that, oh, hey, my attention was over here. What an idiot. Right.
Mm,
And that could be a fun little way that you talk with yourself of like, oh, yep, cool, there I go. I had somebody I worked with a couple years ago where I would tell him he was so judgmental with himself. We were in a session and he goes, yeah, there I go judging again. And I said, cool, every time your attention goes to judgment, I want you to just say out loud, oh, there I go judging again. And we would go out on the golf course and he would say it like 100 times.
whatever.
And then every single time he would come right back in and he would laugh every time he said it.
Yeah, it's
And
funny.
he's like, it's nothing more than a reminder that I'm somewhere else. And that the voice in my head took a hold of the wheel and said, I'm driving the bus right now. And when we say, oh, there I go judging again, or welcome back, or and we're back, we're just getting back in the driver's seat and we're saying, hey, Steve, you over here, but I'm going to drive
Yeah,
and it's all going to be
big.
okay. So that's something that I think is very, very tangible. One, come up with a name, right?
Mhm.
Name the voice in your head. It could just be voice, but give it something else that's not just you speaking to yourself. So you get that little bit of separation.
I'm gonna name it my dog.
There you go. And
Roman's gonna be talking shit.
hell yeah, right? And so now that's exactly what it is, right? So
Yeah,
Roman starts talking shit, Roman's just talking shit.
yeah,
But it doesn't have to be this thing that grabs you by the shirt and pulls you away from the thing that's meaningful.
yeah,
It's the same thing as like your buddy's giving you a hard time when you're just playing a bullshit round with your friends.
yeah,
Right? You could just still go out there and be like, ha ha ha, what a jerk or whatever it is, and then now I'm gonna go do the thing that I have to go and do.
yeah. Write that
Right?
write that intention right on the card. Something you're looking at constantly. No.
Take an index card.
Yeah,
Right, write it on a piece of paper.
put it
You
on the
get your
wheel.
you get your receipt from your round of golf, right?
Sure. Yep.
Write it on the back of the receipt, put it in your pocket,
Love it.
and
Love it.
and let that be your intention. Let that be your theme for the day. But it can't be outcome related. It has to be more values based of like
Mhm.
things like creativity. And what I would recommend is like just go on Google and type in list of values.
Big mental day.
Yeah,
Big mental day. I love it. This is a
yeah.
good one. This is a good one. It got me.